my family and I decide to went to the beach. So we like to go fishing and all that, and we rent a boat. And when we rent a boat, we saw a lot of turtles that we have never seen before. And the man told us that that kind of turtles began to appear because all the pandemic, because all the people were in their houses and not in the beach. So I think that the pandemic is not so negative. I think that we're just thinking about ourselves. He said that the carbon dioxide has decreased since the pandemic started. So I remember one time when I go to the supermarket, and when I went to the supermarket, I don't hear any noise of cars, of machines. I really don't hear any noise. And when I look to the sky, I saw that the sky were more blue than before. Since the pandemic started, the people have said that this is the worst thing that has happened to the world. But I don't think that is that true, because improvements have seen in the environment. The environment is just taking a breath of ourselves, because we are the ones that we leave our trash in everywhere, in the streets, in the ocean, and we don't care about it. So I think that the world is just taking a break of ourselves and is improving right now. Thanks to COVID, China locks down and other measured results in 25% reduction in carbon emissions and 50% reduction in nitrogen emissions, saving at least 77,000 lives over the last 2 months. Another example is the Peruvian jungle. Experienced 14 oil spills were in a jungle sector operated by Frontera Energy de Peru S.A. with ceased operation during the pandemic. The oil spills contaminate the drinking water of indigenous people of Quechua territory. In Italy, Venice, shortly after quarantine began in March and April 2020, water in the canals cleared and experienced greater water flow. The increase in water density was due to the shedding of sediments that is distributed by boat traffic. Another example is that when the humans get home because quarantine, the animals began to appropriate the urban spaces. And an example is northern India. Was a herd of deer was caught in camera walking in the streets, and examples like that began to appear in the world. The biggest beneficiaries of this quarantine are the birds, because they make noise or sing, or when you hear singing a bird, it's because they are communicating with each other. And they communicate because there is a predator or there is danger or something like that. And where the car sounds or the machines start working and don't let them talk or communicate or sing like that, they start dying because they feel lonely. And according to the recent study published in the journal Biology Letters, noisy pollution affects any number of creatures, ranging from frogs to shrimp to fish, animals, and snakes. I hope I make my point clear, because I think that this is a very important topic that anyone talk about it, and it's a place where we live, is the animals that are dying, is our life in danger, because if the animals die, we die. If the plants die, we die. If our environment is bad, we are bad. So I think that is very important. We see that well, the environment is increasing, is getting better, so we have to take care about it. But the cons of all this health, is that some experts fear that the world risks a future with more traffic, more pollution, and climate changes that worsen faster than ever. Why is this? Because we're going to return to our activities, and we're going to return to don't take care of our planet.
COVID-19 has slowed the world down, and that, on the surface, seems to be a good thing for that other deadly global crisis: climate change. China is the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gases, but the lockdowns that shut down factories and kept drivers off roads have corresponded with a staggering drop in emissions there, with nitrogen dioxide levels falling by up to 40%. Scientists are seeing similar trends in Italy, and pollution levels in major American cities are down too. But before we all start celebrating, remember that none of these environmental gains are expected to last. Just look at China. Travel restrictions have been lifted in the province where the outbreak started, and nearby factories run by Honda, Nissan, and other car makers have begun their return to business as usual. Which means air pollution is back too. That trend could get even worse, depending on China's plans to boost its economy. A report released by the NGO Global Energy Monitor found that in the first 3 weeks of March, China has approved plans for more coal-fired power capacity than in all of 2019. Back in the US, the EPA announced that it would stop enforcing environmental laws indefinitely in situations where the agency agrees a business couldn't comply because of the pandemic, though it's unclear what they'd have to do to prove that. The agency took this unprecedented move after receiving a letter from the American Petroleum Institute requesting a suspension of regulations. And President Trump has made it clear one of his top priorities is to bail out fuel-inefficient industries like airlines and cruises.
We want to protect our shipping industry, our cruise industry, cruise ships. We want to protect our airline industry, very important.
They might be very important, but after 3 rounds of negotiations in Congress, the latest bailout plan is missing a provision that environmental groups have been pushing for: that airline bailout money be contingent on emission reductions. And so far, the bailout talks have left the hard-hit renewable energy sector in the dust. The virus is spreading at a time when solar and wind technicians are the 2 fastest-growing occupations in the US. But with installations down, global supply chains disrupted, and plants temporarily offline, the industry's growth is suddenly stalled. We talked to Tom Kiernan of the American Wind Energy Association, which is still lobbying Congress for an extension of tax credits.
The wind industry has an extraordinary amount of wind farms under construction. A near record 44 gigawatts are under construction throughout the country. So the COVID disruption is coming at a horrendous moment as we are maxing out all of our systems of building turbines and wind blades and towers. Hence why we're deeply concerned and looking to Congress to provide some of these policies. The industry will thrive in the long term. The question is how smoothly we can get to this point and how quickly we can get there by keeping the 115,000 employees that we have on the job, so that as we come out of this, we can grow from there. We don't want to have the potential layoff of 35,000 folks. That'll set us back 6 months, a year, 2 years. We need to get through this crisis and get through, frankly, the huge public health challenge, but we can get through this challenge in a way that positions us to continue reducing the carbon intensity in our economy.
This video shows my point in a clearly way. I hope I make conscious and that when you return to your activities, please take care of the planet. Please care of where we live. And thank you for your attention.